Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Weird Frequencies. Coming to you live from a cornfield somewhere in the middle of central Illinois, deep down in a bunker under a bunch of corn. A big mountain, big pile of corn. It's Weird Frequencies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Rob Hansen. Along with me, Tyler and Adam, my amazing co-hosts. And tonight we have what the show's about. We always like to tell you it's about weird things going on in the world. We always say, what in the hell is going on out there, and why, and what's going on, is what the show's about. Weird things happening in the world and on this planet, and just trying to figure it out. So, but tonight we have a special guest, man. We're so excited, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight on the show is Ash Hamilton, and Ash Hamilton is a writer. He's a producer, he's a director, and he's known for, I think one of the biggest things is the Holes in the Sky, the Sean Miller story, which I saw, ads for that all over the place on Facebook and stuff. But, he's also known for Tales from the End of Times, and the true tale of old Split Foot versus the lesbian warrior nuns of the Great White North, which is one of the greatest movie titles.
I dare anybody to say that title 5 times fast.
Right. I'm not going to try that. So, without further ado, let's bring on Mr. Ash Hamilton, ladies and gentlemen. Ash Hamilton. Woo!
Hi guys, thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We can stop our little music.
I got it.
Thank you. So Ash, man, where are you from? Can I ask you that?
Yeah, I'm from Illinois. I grew up in central Illinois, close to the more like central eastern part of Illinois, close to the Indiana border. I was a East Coast transplant for a number of years. I was there for about 12. And I've been back here now for about 12.
Awesome. Okay. So I saw you were talking about that at the beginning of Holes in the Sky, how you were kind of drawn to that story because it was local for you in Illinois. And that's why I was like, wow, okay, he's right around here. What are you working on right now? Or do you want to talk about Holes in the Sky? Or what do you want to talk about? And when your movies, in movie world for you, what's going on?
Well, so we just finished with F Tales from the End Times. That's relatively recently. I think we've only really had a solid edit on that for about 3 or 4 weeks now. So, it's a process. Like you shoot over a period of X amount of days. And with this one, it's 5 stories. So we've got 5 directors. I'm one of 5 directors involved. And each of the stories takes place on the same day in the same universe, but it's the day that the world ends. So we had all these directors shoot their segments independent of ours. There's some connecting threads. So there's that connective tissue. But, it's a process. Like you shoot it, and then you're digesting ingesting all the footage. You're taking a look at what you have, what you need, what you don't have, and then over a period of months and months and months, you edit it, you mix the sound. If you have special effects, which we had a lot on this one, then that post-production stuff takes a really long time, especially in indie filmmaking, because you're wearing a lot of hats. Like it'd be great, if we had Marvel money, and we just paid everybody to do it, and of course, even with Marvel money, these movies sometimes take upwards of a year or more to actually get completely made, even with that money. So, imagine trying to do something that's probably like way outside of your capabilities, like you write something and then you take a step back and you're like, we can do it. And then about 6 months later, you're like, I want to shoot myself in the face because it's taking forever. And like you learn to hate yourself. Like, why did I write that? Like, why didn't I just write a story about 2 guys trapped in a closet or something? It would have been so much easier. It's like, I know there's a key in her somewhere. We just build up the tension for an hour and a half. But instead, It's like, no, we want to do this whole like apocalyptic thing. And we wrote it strangely with the idea that we'll like worry how to do it later. We have a pretty good idea of what we wanted to do. And
what's your part about? Can you tell us just a little tiny bit? What's your section?
oh yeah, I definitely can. So my idea always is like I get really excited about like when heroes don't win. Like that to me sometimes is more interesting. When you watch something like Armageddon or you watch these other movies, like you're thrust into the action with a Green Beret or a top level physicist, or the one guy that had the key to global warming, whatever it is. There's like this, you're there, and then they ratchet up the tension, and then they save the day. What happens if maybe they don't? Like I like this idea of more often than not, there's probably a million ways for you to fail, one for you to just to succeed. So the odds are against you. First of all, like you're probably gonna fail. Like if you're up against like a worldwide extinction level event, some kind of cataclysm, sorry, buddy. It's like you're probably gonna go up in a puff of smoke. It's just the way it's gonna work. So what I wanted to do was with my segment is that I wrote my segment first, and then I approached the directors and I said, hey, here's what I've got, just so that you don't mimic it. If you've got something in mind, we don't want to be redundant. Like we want each thing to be its own entity, but we want them to coexist. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to sort of place mine at ground zero. So the story itself sort of revolves around this reporter. She's in a small town. We're talking like, probably half the size of someplace like Springfield, Illinois, maybe someplace like Decatur or Danville, Illinois, that has their own sort of, news station. And she's just like, she's jaded. She's done this for way too long. Like, at first they were putting her on what she thought was, some juicy, meaty stories. And now she does a lot of like Pee-wee soccer or somebody that makes like top coats for ferrets. It's like they're these little human interest stories. She's done. And her sister, however, is significantly more successful. So her sister is an ATF agent who has worked on cases, infiltrating cults and infiltrating militia groups, stuff like that. So there's this tension between someone who's sort of past their prime and the fact that they realize that maybe their moment is gone. And the fact that, she's got a sister who really is in the trenches doing like really important work. So she gets this message from her sister that she's infiltrated this cult, and the cult is fairly well known. Like they've been involved in like racketeering and arms trade, and there's reports of like polygamy and brainwashing and all this stuff. And she sends this message to her reporter sister saying, hey, listen, I don't think I'm going to make it out of this one. Like, I haven't really been in contact with the ATF. I'm not getting the information that I should, and things are escalating here. So you sort of need to tell mom and dad like where they can find my remains for closure. So, she's breaking cover in order to say, this is the last time we're going to speak. I'm sorry. Wish we had a better relationship. Tell mom and dad this is where they can find me. So if we had a hero, they would try to find their sister and rescue them for all the right reasons. But we don't. What we have is an advantageous, opportunistic, small-town news reporter who says to herself, wait, I know where this place is at. My sister's melodramatic. There's no way the ATF's going to let her die, but we can get there and get the whole thing on camera. It'll just be great. Like, this is our chance. We're going to, break away from small town news, and this is going to become like a national thing. So they sort of tried a lot of this segment is them trying to make their way there, and then what they find when they get there. And when they get there, it's not what they expect. It's much bigger. And it's let's say they sort of end up being at ground zero for the end of the world. And our segment opens up the movie, and then we give you little snippets of story in between the other segments. So we have this sort of wraparound story, and then we end the movie with our segment and sort of what was our big coup de grace and all of our
Oh, cool.
special effects. It took us like a year to finally complete.
Wow. So how many people actually like worked on your? How many people are on the crew totally? Do you think to complete your section of that movie?
Well, one day we had
Give
over
people an idea.
80 extras one
Wow.
day.
Wow.
So we for having not a ton of money, you know, we had investors, we had producers, but whenever having a ton of money, we were able to sort of, you know, in indie cinema, you really sort of rely on the kindness of strangers.
I bet.
So it's like, come here and we'll feed you.
Yeah.
So
Pizza.
we managed to feed a lot of people one day, and we had a lot of people show up because we wanted my idea and my intent was always if the end of the world happened and there was a live news feed, what would it look like? What would it look like if that person was, you know, in the middle of Vietnam, in the middle of, you know, any of the Middle Eastern operations, like, you know, those moments where the camera is right there in the action. Like what would it look like if that was the end of the world? You know, how would you sort of be able to do that and navigate through that? And for the budget we had, like how do you make it look exciting? Like how do you add a lot of special effects? How do you keep that camera moving? How do you make it look like there's a ton of people there? Even when you have a ton of people, you still have to sort of make it look like there's even more people there. So it's like, how do you do that on a relatively modest budget and still make it look impactful? Like, how do you look at it and go, oh, wow. You know, look at the size and the scope and sort of how robust these scenes are, because, you know, let's face it, we don't have millions of dollars, you know, our budget is way smaller. You know, like if people have millions of dollars, like we had thousands of dollars, like we were able to pull together some money for that. But like that was the intention of how do we make a movie look like it cost millions of dollars? Like how do we do that? How do we sort of pull the wool over the audience's eyes and shoot it in such a way that we can make it look like we had that much money, which is a sort of a double-edged sword, because then people have expectations. But in the end, like we're doing pretty good with it. Like so far, like it's, you know, out in the wild now, meaning like we've introduced it to the festival circuit, and we've been picked up at a few festivals. We just got picked up at another one today.
Awesome.
So we're getting some good press, and we're getting picked up, and then it's just a matter of like, you know, where do you like where does it find its home? Like ultimately you want it to find a home that has money so that you can make it another one. But we're looking for its home right now, I guess you could say.
Man, I can't wait to see it. I mean, good luck too with it finding a home. And you know, everyone here, don't forget, you know, go see F Tales from the End Times. That's what we're talking about right now, for sure. And when it comes out, wherever it comes out, is this a departure for you from your previous movies a little bit? I mean, this sounds like a serious science fiction, you know, apocalyptic type thing, whereas the true Tales of Old Splitfoot and the Lesbian Warrior Nuns of the Great White North might not be so serious as this. And I'm guessing just from the title, but I mean, I see you were into like your previous movies were more horror and gore, and you even had what was that, the Slice and Dice in the series. And yeah, so this is, are you you know, is this new for you, is what I'm saying, or tell us a little bit about your early stuff, I guess.
I guess it's more like palatable, it's more digestible. Like we put more action in it than like the other stuff that we've done. It's still, mind you, it's heavy on gore. I will say that. Like the last the last 10 minutes is pretty insane.
So for Ash Hamilton fans, know that you're not getting left that.
For people who like gore, they will love the last 10 minutes. We packed a lot in there. But I wanted to approach it like the way you would approach a summer blockbuster kind of film. Like, you know, how do we interject first of all, like how do we write characters where we want to go on the journey with them? You know, like you know, if you try to write a big movie, like you have to have a character who acts as like that vehicle. You hop in with them and you go for the ride with them. You know, so you've got to like them a little bit. You know, they might be deplorable in certain ways, but once you get to know them, it's like, oh, I want to see the entire arc of their journey. You know, you get invested. So yeah, this one was a little bit different because like before, it was with Old Splitfoot, it was just like how out of control gross can we be? Like I'll give you an idea of some of the stuff in the script for Old Splitfoot. There is a scene where one of the strippers, this is at a rural Canadian strip club, okay? Like they're running an underground like maple syrup racket. It's that Canadian. So they're
Those dirty Canadians.
it's horrible, you know. So there's this place it's called the Beaver Dam, the DAM, you know, but the DAM exclamation mark is like beaver, comma, dam, is the actual name of the strip club in Canada. And yeah, we have shirts and everything, mind you. Like,
Nice.
in my house, there's Beaver Dam coasters.
I'm gonna need some of them shirts there, Ash.
The Beaver Dam is you know, very rural and out of the way, and some of the ladies there are maybe past their prime, and one of them might be a bit of an alcoholic and accidentally consumes this vial of holy water that is supposed to like stop the Antichrist from coming. So she has a very singular novelty that she can do that involves fluids.
Oh, that she does.
And that might be how she saves the world. I'm just speculating. I'm just speculating. Yeah.
Is that going to be a
so-
move? Is that going to be a move in the next Castlevania game?
It might be a code that you could put in. And you know, we're sitting there like why is Simon Belmont putting his hands behind his name? This is a new one.
So, well, that's awesome. I mean, you've covered one end of the spectrum to the other in movie making so far.
To the one that no one actually wanted to visit. We were going to go there anyway. So.
One of our listeners, Chris Rhodes, said Gore's great. There you go.
Well, I'm a big horror movie fan. I'm also a big sci-fi fan. I'm a big comic book fan. So
Sure.
I love sort of the outrageousness of horror. You know, it's still sort of the redheaded stepchild of cinema. You know, I mean, it makes studios a ton of money. Like it really does. Like studios understand the formula when it comes to horror, which is we don't put a ton of money into it. We get a ton of money out of it.
And they don't get a lot of Academy Awards.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead, Ash. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, go right ahead. But I agree completely. Yeah.
It's kind of like The Conjuring, you know, when that film first came out, that was like the big horror film. Everybody was talking about it. Go see it. Made a ton of money. Started a new whole section of horror for, you know, ghosts and all that stuff. But nowadays, nobody ever talks about it. So every once in a while, you get that one big horror film that when it hits, it's like just a sledgehammer on a sheet of ice on a pond. It shatters everything, but also at the same time creates this glass wall that kind of hard to break from what it looks like.
You know, it happens quite a bit, and you know, and it's weird because it happens sometimes like in action. You know, you'll have like the Fast and Furious movies, you know, that become episodic, or the John Wick films. So you do have franchises in action. Sometimes you'll have franchises in comedy or whatever.
How dare you compare both those movies, by the way?
Like you'll have these franchises, but like horror is definitely known for its franchising. You know, I mean, they're sort of like in on the joke. You know, it's like if we get one good one, then maybe we can get 13 not so good ones to follow it that we
Yeah.
can still make quite a bit of money off of.
Right.
It's sort of like the name of the game, and Hollywood's fine with letting him do it.
Yeah.
What's the newest Jason was a good twist. The newest Jason, Friday the 13th. It was something really. I was like, wow, okay, I might go see that.
Yeah,
Did you-
and
I can't
that
remember
one,
what it
like,
was.
that one's been in like trademark copyright hell. The Friday the 13th franchise has been for years.
The mask.
It's the writer and the original director, I think, had some bit of a spat, like Sean Cunningham and Steve Miner, those guys who sort of created the franchise.
Huh.
So we've got a lot of these franchises that have been a little bit dormant. We
Mhm.
have, they made tons of sequels, made tons of money, and we just haven't really revisited them. But we do have these new franchises, like we're talking about, like the Conjuring universe is pretty big. We've got the Conjuring films, and those include the Annabelle films. It's like there's a lot. The Insidious also is sort of like a satellite for those films. They're not necessarily in the same world, but they're similar in that way.
Mhm.
And they sort of franchise these films out, and you get a few every few years that will come along, and it'll sort of rejuvenate the genre. We'll get something like Paranormal Activity. They made a ton of money off of the franchise, off of that, and then like the Conjuring, the Saw films. You'll have something that'll come along, and then it'll just create this legacy of sometimes 15 up to 15 films. Sometimes, I mean, they just sort of keep making them.
Mhm.
If like one person's sitting in the theater, they're like, "Here we go, we're
Yeah.
gonna make another one." Like, we can sell a ticket, we can sell 100 tickets. It's sort of like this carnival barker kind of thing. Horror gets sort of like chintzy and sort of cheesy in that respect, because it's being sold in that way, much like it's being sold like a used car or something. But that's why we didn't see Sophie's Choice 1 through 15 was dramas and stuff like that. They're sort of one and done, and they're like, okay, they did their awards, they ran the gamut. But with horror, it's like, man, when they get a foothold somewhere, and it's something that they can parse out over years and make money on it. Horror does really, really well for studios.
Some things, though, are just like they've just ran out of freaking ideas. Like the Fall Guy. The Fall Guy. That show is like, okay, 30 years old for one thing. Kids today have no freaking idea who the Fall Guy is, who Steve, what was his Lee Majors is.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about that show. Have the big truck he drove and all that. I'm old enough to know. I don't know if all you guys are, but
Oh, I remember the Fall Guy. Yeah.
yeah. And he had the hot chick Heather Locklear drove around with him and stuff. And this. I mean,
Yeah.
why even use the name or anything? What does this movie have to do with it? I guess he's a stunt guy. I mean, and it, which is what the Fall Guy was. But why
But,
even
yeah.
borrow that franchise, and why not come up with something else? You know what I mean? Something fresh. I don't know.
It's that's a weird decision. They do that sometimes, where it's just like generationally, there's no real like cross pollination. We haven't
Yeah.
really done anything with the Fall Guy in so long that one doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's funny. But so, well, okay. So, another question about just yourself. Just because I think you're interesting as a person, but like, are you? Is this? Do you direct movies full time? Is that your full time job, or do you have another job?
No, I have a full-time job that is sort of in the same vein, but more corporate. And then I do the films until at which point I reach a tipping point.
Sure.
The
So
distribution
you'd like to
game,
do that? I mean, someday, eventually, if it's ever
Oh
possible.
yeah, yeah. I and it's weird because the distribution model is so strange now. It's easier to make movies, harder to make money off of them. It's weird. The balance there is difficult to strike. When
Even
we
big movies
were,
have such a short run now. What's up with that? I mean, they run for one day or for a week or something. I remember, movies used to run for a few months, right? 3 months or something.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
Movies run.
I mean, look in the 80s at how long a film like E.T. was actually at the theater. You had some of these films were there through multiple seasons. Like they might start
Really?
in the summer and they were still promoting it by December because it was a family film and it did so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were there for
It's funny those
months.
movies made. I just saw a movie, advertised the other day. It was like 1 day only. Go see it tomorrow. And I'm like, 1 day? Now they're running movies 1 day. Okay. Wow.
And like
It's
some of
a-
the movies don't even appear in like all the theaters. Like we were talking about a movie, what was it, last week? Actually stars some pretty big talent in it. The nearest theater, I think Adam looked it up, is actually in Wisconsin that's playing it. That
Oh,
movie,
there's a
Sunset, whatever.
showing in like Davenport, Iowa,
Yeah.
and up in Wisconsin, and stuff
It's
like that.
bizarre. They all sort of lost their minds during COVID.
Yeah.
Which so many industries did, but
Yeah.
the entertainment industry in particular, I think, just it's like, hey, lock us in a room with 2 years worth of vodka, and we're going to come out crazier than ever, and that seems to
That's
be
pretty much
what
what happened.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
you're
don't
right.
have a lot of confidence in product anymore, too. Like, I think the last huge, enormous, probably event film that we saw was probably Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
As far as them pumping a ton of marketing dollars into it, and them having enough confidence to say, we know we're going to get our money back. We're going to keep it in the theaters for as long as we can. That was one of the last big ones because anything else, I don't think they have the confidence in it. I think that when they're pulling entire movies off of their slate so that they can get a tax write-off,
Mm-hmm.
then you've got an industry that's losing its identity. They really don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. So what's your plan now? I mean, knowing all this, for your movie, for F Tales from the End of Times, is your plan right now to promote that nonstop? Is that your job at this point?
Yeah, we've got we've got interest from distributors and a couple of good, distributors, but we haven't really spent a lot of time on the festival circuit yet. We've only been really, submitting to festivals for like a few weeks.
Uh-huh.
And that can make a huge difference with whose eyes actually get on it. Like the visibility of a film before it hits like, the American film market and stuff is you want to get it in some big festivals and hopefully some people will put some eyes on it. You want to get some word of mouth. And that's sort of where we're at right now. Like we premiered in LA. So we had an LA based premiere and we won a couple awards there.
Awesome.
We're
Congratulations.
showing in Chicago May 5th. We
Wow.
won a couple more awards and one from Delaware. We've got a couple awards pending from one in New York. So we're hitting, luckily, like we're hitting festivals because the festival circuit, basically you're submitting against, sometimes it's 2,000 films, depending on how big the festival is. So, and you don't really have any control over it. You just, you pay this fee, which is basically paying them for their time to watch the movie. And then they decide whether it gets to be an official selection or not. So with a lot of festivals, if they've got 2,000 submissions, they might play 4 movies. So
wow.
if you're an official selection and you're one of 4 or even one of 10 against hundreds or thousands of other movies,
That's cool.
then you start getting some steam. Like people are recognizing that you were competitive out
Uh-huh.
of hundreds of other features, and that place decided to show yours. And then if you then win awards out of that small group, then that's sort of then you've, it sounds weird, but like the best of the best, it's like
Uh-huh.
then you are able to compete against the best that was there that you were grouped into as a selection, and then you become an award winner. So, as of right now, I think we just got into either the 7th or the 8th festival. And I got to remember, I think we're at like 7 or 8 awards. So we've done really well where we're at. And this has just been in the first few weeks. So we're hoping that streak continues to that, when we do finally sort of slow down a little bit, then we can, talk to the distributors and say, hey, listen, here's the accolades, here's the reviews. We're going to do very well on VOD, or if you want to put us in a select group of theaters, depending on where they're at regionally, we're probably going to do pretty well. That was the case with Holes in the Sky, is that we had a ton of, we won a ton of awards, a really good large number of awards. And, then we knew based on that people wanted to see it. So we knew that when it hit VOD, that we were probably going to have quite a few people rent it, quite a few people purchase it like digitally, and luckily we made our distributor a lot of money.
Yeah.
You should.
That's good.
You should.
And
tell
that's what
them,
really counts.
Oh, sure.
you should tell
Making
them
someone
how,
else a boatload of money.
Ash, sir, you should tell them about how you blew the Blair Witch Project away from awards. How you made that more awards on that one film. I think it was The Holes in the Sky.
Yeah,
than
Holes
Blair
in the
Witch.
Sky.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we started hitting these festivals and winning, I was always like, I don't have a really good like way to like pump people up. So when we first we started showing the people the film, people were like, wow, we think you've got something here. So I'd get the cast and crew together and I'd be like, hey, just so you know, we made a movie, it's looking good, don't expect to get into any festivals. Like, I was preparing everyone for nothing. I'm like, we're probably not going to get any festivals, so we're good. We just understand that we've got distribution, it's fine. So then we started to get into festivals. We got into like a few in a row, in a few big ones. And I was like, don't expect to win the awards. Like, we got into the festivals, it's just fun to be nominated. Don't expect to win any awards. And then we started winning awards. So I was never like the great, pep rally kind of guy, because I was always just preparing people for obscurity. And and so I always sort of hate to look at the idea of the awards, because it always felt weird. Like, it felt weird to me. Like, as a person who creates stuff, like, you go to bed every night thinking you're a fraud. You do, like, every night you're just sitting there going, well, I am in another festival, but they're going to find out that I suck. Like, every night you're just second guessing yourself. And, it's an existential nightmare.
You're putting yourself out there.
Yeah. It's a horrible thing to do.
Yeah.
So it got to a point where
Takes guts.
I think my wife and I were in the car together, and she asked the question, how many awards is like the highest amount of awards for our category? And I said, man, I don't know, but I and she started looking at stuff, and she goes, oh, it's definitely the Blair Witch, which I said, well, that's pretty much because we're one of like these two sort of categories that go hand in hand, which is like mockumentary and found footage. That's where we were. And she was like, they've won X amount of awards. And she goes, how many have we won, and are we close? And I didn't even I sort of didn't want to think about it, because you don't want to set yourself up for failure, and then find out that you're not even close. But then we started to tally stuff up, and I think at that point we were like 2 or 3 away from matching the amount of awards that it had on the festival circuit. And we were like, oh, that's interesting. Like, we're really close, and we've got a few of these festivals yet that we don't even know if we're going to get nominated for. And then we got nominated at one for 13 awards, which was crazy. By the way, that doesn't mean you're going to win any, because we went there and didn't win a single one. We were the most nominated film there, and every time they'd announce, I'm like, we'll get the next one. We'll get the next one. And then it got to the point, and I'm like, maybe we won't get any. Maybe we are definitely going home empty-handed. And we did. Like, that was sobering. It was like we got nominated more than any other movie.
Wow.
And that was one where we had to walk away and go, it's the nominations that count.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very sobering. So then, like, we got into a few more, and then we started just to win multiples at like each of the ones that we got nominated at. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, I think we're at like 21, and Blair Witch was 19. So then we got to 21, and then we weren't even done with the festival circuit yet. And then we ended up going to like 30, and then we ended up going to like 32. And then I think we came in at like between maybe like 36 to 38.
Right on.
The festival season. We're like, oh, holy shit. We beat the Blair Witch out for like most nominated in this category. And then we thought, there's got to be some kind of money with that. Interesting. No, there doesn't have to be any kind of money with that. So the great thing is all of these sobering moments help to keep you very humble when you think like, hey, things are a-changing a little bit, it's incrementally. Yeah. But, so we do have the distinction at this point of still holding that record number of awards for that subcategory of film.
That is awesome. Blasting Blair Witch out of the water. So how can, before we switch on to a couple of like our weird frequencies type questions we want to ask you about, unrelated to your movies. What's the best way people could help F-Tales from the end times? I mean, is there a way, can they go, they can't go watch it right now, right? Is there a way that they could support and help out people watching right now in the Illinois area, and also what's the best way for them to see like Holes in the Sky?
Luckily Holes in the Sky is still pretty much everywhere. Like, you can watch it on Prime, you can watch it on Vudu, you can watch it on Tubi, you can watch it on Freevee. There's I think we're maybe like 8 or 9 streaming services. So
okay, cool.
It's relatively, and a few of those are free that are just ad supported. So there's a lot of different ways to watch that. As far as like supporting F, as we hit more festivals, I guess the best way is just, like check us out on Facebook or check us out on Twitter and stuff, and find if we're close. Like, if we're at a festival that's close to you, they'll usually sell tickets, so you can get into the festival and not only watch ours, but watch like maybe 4 or 5 other movies, and then they usually have short films and stuff there. So
you said May 5th in Chicago? Yeah,
May 5th in Chicago. That's a Sunday, so I think we're playing around 5 p.m.
Awesome.
at the Chicago Horror Film Festival.
Nice.
And then we've got some more lined up. Like, every time that we know, we end up, getting online and trying to update, as much as possible. But that would be one way. And then I think just actually for right now, that would probably be like the way would be see if it's there. Now, for people around Springfield, Decatur, Champaign, around that, like, we will do probably a local premiere.
Cool.
Where we'll have when we did Holes, we did it at the Hoogland Theater in Springfield.
We come back and see us and plug it when you do that.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Definitely.
I definitely want
stop in and see us real quick. We'll plug it for you and let people know.
I definitely want to see F for sure, because this trailer, I've got the trailer queued up if you want to watch it. The trailer itself, the movie looks insanely good, and it's got one of the cast members of the Best Damn Podcast, Tim Gibbons, in there. We've been calling him Hollywood Tim Gibbons since he revealed he was in this movie. But yeah, I definitely want to go see this movie when it comes out. I definitely want to support this movie. It looks freaking crazy, and I love it.
Super cool.
And I was gonna just real quick too, because I forgot about it.
Yes.
June 8th and 9th, I'll actually be in Spruce Pines, North Carolina, at the Spruce Pines UFO convention there, which is one of the bigger UFO festivals actually in the United States. They get about 25,000 people there over the course of the weekend. I'll be there the 8th and the 9th on a panel, not only talking about Holes in the Sky, but I'll be on the panel with one of the Ancient Aliens guys as well.
Wow.
Super cool.
You want me to play the trailer for Eft real quick?
You want to do that, Ash?
Sure, why not?
Let's do it. All right.
Queued up right here, ready to go.
Diane, this world has plagued us by holding back our true power. Death will have no hold. However, when that door does open, we will be imbued with celestial power. Life will be eternal.
Bring a knife with you. This is the ultimate tool.
You're going to go along. I'm not going to make it till morning.
I tried everything I could.
The end of the world is here. And it's now.
Everything we're fighting for is gone.
Nice. Very cool. Very
Thanks.
cool.
Thank you.
Man, now all our listeners are watching. You know, we got like we'll get like 250 tonight, and we got like 4,000 total.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Wanted to see this, you know that.
Yeah,
So,
we get
That is
we get a-
fantastic.
we don't get a lot of people watching us live, but Weird Frequencies after hours, people will watch this. I've looked back behind and I like looked at the analytics. Rob has a following of like people between midnight and 2:00 that for some reason will just tune in and watch this stuff. So there you go.
yeah, they catch us replays, definitely. Thank you, listeners.
Now-
We love you guys. So, go ahead, Adam.
Now, I do have a question for you, Ash. More in regards to the festivals. Have you ever showed up at a festival and was just blown away by the response, like you didn't expect what you were pulling into? I guess.
Yeah, we did one in Kentucky, and they had asked us because we won Best Feature. So they said, since you won Best Feature, we'd like for you to not only be there, but to walk the red carpet with some of our guests. And I get there and I started to see the list of their guests, and I'm like, nobody's gonna know who the hell I am. Nobody. And I'm like, listen, can you just do me a favor and like either put me like all the way at the end of the beginning so that like I'm not sandwiched between really well-known people. And they're like, sorry, like no, we've already, like, you're already where we want you. So is everybody know who Sam Raimi is, who directed the Spider-Man films, and directed the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness? And then everybody also knows who Bruce Campbell is, correct?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Army of Darkness.
So
Yeah.
I'm in the green room and they're both back there, and I'm like, don't put me with them, for God's sakes. Like, I'm just gonna be I'm invisible now, but I'm gonna be super invisible if I'm anywhere near these guys. So, I'm still, they haven't called my name yet, and there's it's crazy. Like, there's all these photographers there, and they actually assign you like a model, like a female model, that like grabs your arm and like escorts you,
escort,
you know, down there.
so you don't fall
And
over.
and so they're like, they're like, director of Spider-Man 1 and 2 and the Evil Dead films.
Yeah,
All this, director Sam Raimi, and he comes up there, and he's
one of the
everybody's,
greatest
"Whoa!"
horror films
'Cause,
of all time.
He's huge, and then they're like, speaking of Evil Dead, they're like, he's Ash Williams from Evil Dead. He's Burn Notice, this Bruce Campbell, and then Bruce Campbell comes up there, and then I'm like, don't do it, it can't be me. Like, this is the worst. This is the absolute worst. And then they're like, feature film director and winner of the festival, Ash Hamilton. And people were like, is this guy just like looking for the bathroom or something? Because it was just like being in that grouping was the weirdest like experience ever, to like be with those people, just sort of back there in the green room, and then to be called out, with them as if you're like their peer or something. So
Did
that
you
was
get to hang out or talk to either of those two?
No, they were like, they're there, then they're gone. They're there, then they're gone. It was,
didn't get within like 20 feet of them. Like,
no, it was like I ended up hanging out with like a couple of like the Destination Truth people and some like ghost hunters people.
There you
go.
go.
They were like a little more approachable.
Bet.
And I think a couple of them might have had a drinking problem, so they were easier to hang around with and like just like chum around with. But that would probably be like the craziest, was just the fact that I don't think we realized that was sort of the arena that they were putting us in, was, because like the film at that festival was a really big deal. The fact that it was, best feature.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because we were like, there at the after party and stuff. And that was probably one of those weird, like how, like, I'm probably the only person here that like goes back to a day job on Monday. Like it just feels really weird where you're like, all right, now I got the drive ahead of me.
Yeah.
Gotta make sure I get up in time for work.
Back to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
You said you were there with a bunch of the Destination Truth guys. Did you ever meet Josh Gates?
No, he wasn't there when I was there.
He's doing a thing in Peoria soon. Did you see?
Oh,
that?
really?
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
Sure is. Yeah.
One of his team, who I think ended up being on a different show, is an attractive brunette who was like with him for years.
I think I remember her. Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen.
Yeah, she and a few like other people were there. It just drinking her face off, by the way, which is kind of but that was fun. Like it was fun, like being in that group. But you always sort of feel again like these people are living this. They're going from place to place, and then they're still associated with a network. They're getting paid by a network. This is their career. And and even though like we were really building up some steam, it was like we are still very much like blue collar, fly by night, having to be back on work on Monday people. So it was a double life, like we were leading for like an entire like summer and fall, where hobnobbing with people that we had no right to be really hobnobbing with.
It sounds like a great opportunity for networking, and it also sounds like a great path to be on, or at least looking down to see where it can go.
We got to meet some great people that we forged a lot of friendships with. Like that's probably, like, I would say there are some people who don't find a lot of value in the film festival circuit. Like they feel like it's like, you go and you see your movie and maybe there's somebody from a studio there or maybe something, but it's not really about that so much. That it's about when you've got something that you sort of put your heart and soul into, and other people are sort of also relying on you to promote that product, you've got to throw everything at the wall to see what sticks. It's just what you have to do. So if somebody invites you to a festival and they invite you on the red carpet, put some gas in the tank, because you're representing the actors that were in that movie. You're representing the sound guy, and you're representing everybody that was involved. And like, you're the person that is the face of that product, or the, the face of that movie, or whatever it is. And they might not have that opportunity to do that. So you sort of have to network for them. And like, I kind of feel like it's my obligation. They stepped up for me. This is the time that I step up, for them.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So is it too early for you to start looking at your next project yet? Or are you looking forward to the future? Have you looked to the future yet? Or are you still focusing on this movie?
We've got a couple things that we're looking at doing. Luckily, we got into a couple of festivals that are very focused on investors. So, we're hoping that something comes out of one of those, if anything, just networking to the point where we can maybe find some investors that we haven't tapped yet, or people that are in a different bracket, where they're not looking to give you $20,000. They're looking to give you, 500,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
And when or if that ends up happening, like I've got about 3 scripts that I really like, that I could probably choose any of them. And I'd be really confident, like it isn't, it's not something where I'd go back and revisit it and go, oh my God, like this is horrible. Like I've went back and still think that they're pretty solid. And I've got one that I'm outlining with another writer that I really like, which is a very, very small movie that would be easily financed, and something that we could probably shoot in about 2 to 3 weeks. So that's what a lot of it is right now, is just, it's a juggling act. How do we make it to the festivals that we can? How do we promote in the ways that we can? And then how do we still keep an eye on keeping something in the pipeline, so that, there's still that relevance?
It's cool how, you can live in the Midwest and be in this business now. You know what I mean? You don't have to live in LA, or you don't have to live in, Los Angeles or New York to, be in the business. You can do it from anywhere you want, almost, in a way.
You really can.
Your base, anyhow.
And the technology is there. We're not talking about having to rent, $100,000 cameras, which, happened in the past. And, also in the past, like, you had to have money for physical film. Like that's if you knew you could make your movie or not, is if you had enough feet of film.
Now, how much are you using AI to write movies with now?
I
Be honest.
don't really like it for the writing process. But admittedly, when we were in post-production, we had a couple scenes that didn't come out right. Like, technically, there was one that we were trying to focus on one object. We were trying to pull focus on something else.
So using to get ideas from.
And the best take that we had, our lead ended up being blurry. Now, old school post-production, you're kind of screwed. You're kind of screwed. Like, you can try to make it look better. You can use all the tricks and the tools, but you're only going to get so far, and until you've exhausted everything that your arsenal sort of has to offer. And I was looking at that. I'm like, okay, this is, this is bad. Like, I need this shot. This is the take. This is it. And I scoured the internet, and there was one guy who was using AI in a certain way that would supposedly repair the footage. And I used it, and I got to admit, I would never have been able to do it manually.
Nice.
The way that it came out is seamless.
Well, that's good. You're using it as a tool. That's the way you should. You're not using it for what, the strike was over. A lot of it was over, copyrights and generating just content, that's just fraudulent, basically.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, man, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty helpful. I mean, wow, you can write a whole movie with AI.
Has its purpose. Just recently, I was looking at, because this is what happens when you get into post. When you get into post, you'll just realize that you've got some holes. There are just some things that are missing, and some of it might be a line of dialogue that the boom mic didn't pick up. And you're asking yourself, like, how do I do this? Do I try to get the actor into a studio somewhere and spend a $2,000 day rate for one line of dialogue? You know, like
Mhm.
what do you do? And sometimes, admittedly, you got to look for like an AI voice generator and go, this is one line. It's in the script. It just didn't get picked up on the boom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I can get it as close to their voice inflection as possible, I'll use it. So I look at using it as a tool for repairing and augmenting.
So what
But-
about for artwork? I mean, like you can, for instance, take a say you're filming a futuristic movie and you need a shot of a hospital interior of a spaceship, and you need an alien laying on a surgical table, and you need doctors standing around them, and you need some cool blue lights shining down on them, and maybe they're working on the alien, and you're thinking, you know, as a director, there's no way in hell I could put this together without, you know, it costing tons of money. But you could go to an AI generator and say those things I just said into it, and it'll generate you a pretty damn nice picture that you need. And then you could take that picture and just kind of like zoom in on it and move around slowly left to right. And there you've got your whole scene for your movie. You know what I mean? If you, even though it's a single one, you know, generated picture, you know, with the magic of the camera, you could turn that into a moving scene almost, you know, where you're almost inside of it. So would you use it for something like that? I mean, is that okay, you think, or is that just totally out of the question for you?
You know, I think if you've got the money, then hire somebody. That's what I think. If you've got the money, because then I think it becomes just a matter of greed. If you've got the money and you're looking at, hey, we can pocket this money. We can, you know, we can cut this by so much if we use this technology. Then all of a sudden you do start getting into that weird ethical area where it's like, okay, you know, are you paying a computer or paying a person? I'd rather pay a person.
Sometimes those Sam Raimi days and the guy with the plastic mask on was a hell of a lot more scarier than the AI too that you see now, you know, and the blood.
And I agree. We had
spot fake AI blood with a quickness, you know what I mean? That real goopy stuff in the day with, you know, made out of yogurt and red food coloring, boy. Whatever they made it out of. And, you know, sometimes a guy in a mask or a plastic shitty mask is even scarier than some of this new stuff. I don't know, you know.
I think it's a blend, you know. I look back on movies like Jurassic Park, for example, and Jurassic Park I think holds up so well today because their approach at that point, because a lot of the digital work was in its infancy, was what do we absolutely need it for? Like that was sort of the question they were asking.
That movie was so beautiful.
Oh, and it still is. Like you can watch it and it still holds up. And I think that maybe that's the question that we still need to ask is what do we absolutely need it for? Can we get away with doing this much practical? But if we need to augment it, you know, do we augment it digitally? Like that's sort of where my heart is at. Like if you can make a puppet, and I've made puppets, like if you could make a puppet and make it move somewhat realistically, and then use something digitally to augment it and just improve upon what you've had. Like I think that's the winner.
You think we'll ever get to a point where AI will just replace actors? You know, isn't that the biggest scare of all for those, you know, people on strike in Hollywood?
Well, that was the whole point of the strike, is they thought
when we can have John Wayne versus Elvis in a movie, you know what I mean? With
we'll see it within our lifetime.
Throwing Clint Eastwood, young Clint Eastwood, about 25 years old in there. You know, nice little cast. It's Frank Sinatra.
The Sora
Marilyn Monroe
AI model is so impressive. If you haven't seen any of the Sora stuff, I suggest go to YouTube, check it out. Sora's got like a demo reel. When you see what Sora is capable of, you're going to look at, well, first of all, people in the film industry are going to look at it and go, hey, maybe I should take that accounting course, because it's so realistic and so convincing that the big question is why won't they use it? And
Yeah. Well, look what Kiss did. Now they've sold their whole library and their likenesses to an AI company, and they're gonna now put out concerts with Kiss with no Kiss isn't going to even be there. It's going to be AI generated versions of them, and they've already captured them. They went in like that movie with Tom Cruise where they went in and they captured his AI or his psyche, his soul in that one movie, Vanilla Sky or whatever it was. But
Minority Report.
Yeah, any of those movies, right? Well, that's what Kiss did. They went in and they hooked themselves up to these machines at this big, huge company, and they captured everything about them physically and all their vocals, and they sold the rights to their music to this freaking company for $300 million. And now they own Kiss, and they have already done the same thing with ABBA. If you watch, ABBA was put out an album a year ago, and they were maybe 2 years ago, but they didn't tour at all. Guess who toured? Their avatars did. The same company that did this created an ABBA virtual concert, and it looked just like them up there. It's pretty amazing. So there is Kiss living forever by doing this. You know what I mean? And taking control of their avatars and their likeness before they even die.
Well, they asked Bon Scott from ACD, or not Bon Scott, sorry, Brian Johnson from AC/DC a while back in an interview, would you do the same thing as them? Brian Johnson had no idea what the hell AI it was. He's like, what is that? Can I drink it?
Oh, bloody avatars. Screw that. It's rock and roll, mate. Yeah. So I don't know. But anyway, it just, you think about having a movie with Bruce Lee in it now. Hey, that'd be pretty cool. I'd go watch that. With totally AI generated Bruce Lee, I'm down. So anyway, the future of movies is pretty wild, man. You're in a pretty awesome business.
Yeah, if you want to see a little, we talked about Sora AI a while back when they announced it, but here's like the showcase that Ash was talking about. So like you can put in like here's the one that really trips people. This is the one. This looks real. That looks real.
Yeah, well, now you can use AI to create scenes like this and make a whole damn movie out of it. And you're seeing tons of it out there. And you're seeing AI Joe Rogan all over the freaking place. I mean, have you noticed that? Joe Rogan's in every commercial there is.
Oh, yeah.
And none of them are really him. And he's saying all this stuff about this brain drug, and none of it's him really saying any of that stuff. They just put it together. But
yeah, this is all made in AI, which is freaking crazy.
So I want to keep you the whole night, Ash. I want to get in a few questions though about some cool things I know you're into and some things related to the show. Like for instance, UFOs and aliens. I'd like to talk a little, of course, about that. Not just because of you're the director of this amazing movie, but just I want to get your insights on how you really feel about them with what's going on lately. With Congress and all of the whistleblowers and people coming forward from Area 51 and just the thousands and thousands of videos that are out there that have got to be, at least half of them got to be real. And government has released now legit footage of these things flying at speeds faster than anything made by man. The physics are impossible. They're flying, thousands of miles an hour and making turns that are just impossible, going straight up in the air. So that's all documented. So, since your movies come out, how are you feeling about aliens lately? Yes, no? Are they real? Are they out there? What do you think?
I'm still in the yes camp, and I've always sort of been in the yes camp. To me, the burden is not on the believer anymore. It's on the skeptic. And the reason I sort of say that is because there's such an overwhelming amount of different kinds of data. And I'm talking about video, I'm talking about eyewitness testimony. Mm-hmm. So, out of a million stories, the burden being on the skeptic is that the skeptic has to prove every single one of them are false. A believer only has to prove one
Right.
as being
Right.
true. So from a logistic point of view, like I'm very much still a nuts and bolts kind of guy. And being a nuts and bolts kind of guy, I have to say that the odds are in the favor of at least 1 out of a million being exactly what we think it is, as opposed to every single one of them having to be lies or hoaxes or delusions. Just one being real means that the phenomena itself, that there's a reality to it, might not be the reality that we think it is, but that there's a reality to it.
Do you think it's more of? Do you lean towards more that they are beings like us from just maybe a more advanced culture, and or maybe from even the future, or do you think that they're more of aliens and lots of different types of aliens?
I think it's everything. I think that probably the clearest choice for me is that it's probably just that weird. It's probably way weirder, way stranger.
That's a good
than-
answer. I think
than
you're right.
we think it is. And the way something that's always impressed me too is that when a society reaches a tipping point, they're either going to create fantastic new technology or they're probably going to destroy themselves, right? For us, it doesn't look good. However,
I know.
which is scary because we're getting to a tipping point. I do believe, especially with AI, we're getting to a tipping point. There's probably been, if there was 1 or 2 civilizations that reached that tipping point, I look at it the same way I look at home run hits, running a marathon, high jump. Once one person does something that was difficult to do for a very, very long period of time, once a person breaks that record, a whole bunch of people do it afterwards. It's strange, but it's just the way it happens. Remember when they broke the home run record? Then it was like every other week, it was like, now this person's close. Now this person's close. Now this person's close. It was like as soon as that one person sort of crosses that threshold, it just opens it wide up. So I think if one civilization said, oh, hey, we've got this wormhole technology or maybe interdimensional technology, whatever the technology is, then more and more had it and more and more had it and more and more had it. And if we subscribe to that limitless, ever expanding model of the universe, that's probably millions upon millions of civilizations then that have that technology. So, and if they have that technology, it might be as easy as then, we're looking at text to image AI. We just saw text to video AI. If they're running on an operating system that's literally as simple as that, they might simply go, show me the last 100 civilizations that just acquired this similar technology. And now they have a readout of 100 of the most recent civilizations. And then they look at it and go, is there one that we could possibly influence for better or for worse, where we might establish trade with them in the next 100 years? And then it condenses that information and that information. A lot of people look at the UFO phenomena as a spiritual kind of thing, and I don't know if I've always subscribed to that, by the way. I don't know if I've always subscribed to
that's huge right now.
Lemuria, and they're coming from inside the earth and stuff like that. Like, I think that it's probably more the idea of, so we've seen a craft, someone had to build it. If someone had to build it, there's a factory. If there's a factory, there's workers. If there's a factory and there's workers, there's a company that owns it. If there's a company that owns it, there's stakeholders. It's probably, it might be much more evolved than that. And I'm oversimplifying it, but I think that it's probably closer to that. It's probably closer to this is a system and a model that works across multiple planets. And this is what they do. So I think that more than likely, if we knew the answer is probably a book that would take more than our lifetime to read. It's probably that much information.
Well, I'm an eyewitness, and I have a picture of this craft that I saw, and actually, quickly I'll tell you, here in Springfield, over Landfear High School, in our backyard were about 20 triangle-shaped craft flying around, and they all had orange lights, mostly, on each corner of the triangle, and they were all moving around in the sky, slowly, kind of, and up and down, left and right, sort of together, crossing over. They're also changing colors, and they're also fading in and out of existence almost. It seemed like they would kind of just fade and come back, and then all of a sudden it would be back. So, and then that lasted. My children saw them first, and they came in the house and told me, Dad, there's orange triangles outside. And I was like, oh yeah, whatever. My daughter looked at me and kind of shook me and was like, no, Dad, there's orange triangles outside in the sky, and it's scaring me. So I jumped up and ran outside, and I saw them too, and they went into there was almost like a portal in the sky, and they all kind of just went into it, one at a time, and disappeared in this slit in the sky, almost, or the curtain that you couldn't see. It was just like a portal. And they the last one hung around for a long time, and there was like a black helicopter flying around up there along with it, checking it out. And then it finally flew into the portal or whatever, and then they were all gone. And I got a picture of one of them. It's clearly like a triangle that's kind of at an angle towards you. These guys, you've seen it, Tyler, right? Haven't you?
Yep, I've seen the photo.
And you can see the three lights on the three corners of it, real perfectly clear.
I'd love to take a look at that if you could send that to me, by the way.
Sure, yeah. And my neighbor saw it too, and she tried to send me pictures over Facebook, and they wouldn't send. It was crazy because it was like Facebook. The lights themselves got pixelated as she sent them to me. Facebook's like trying to help you by condensing the picture quality so it sends faster on the internet, right? Yeah, these pictures she sent me were black.
Oh wow!
They condensed the color out of them and the size. That the picture was just black, and you couldn't see what she was sending me.
That's pretty convenient.
Yeah.
Rob, is that photo on your Facebook? So I'm looking.
Yeah, it is somewhere. If you type in UFO, you might find it. Actually,
I can't find it
in my posts somehow, somewhere. Not my zombie page, but my Rob Hansen page.
Yeah.
But if not, I'll send them to you, Ash. But yeah, so that's one interest that I have in these things, and so I've also seen now thousands of videos of the same exact thing that I saw in the sky. I mean, all these videos out there are the same exact thing. They're orange. A lot of them are. I mean, but a lot of them change colors like that. A lot of them go in and out of the existence almost, and who knows what they are. They could be even travelers just passing by,
I haven't really seen. I'm a ghost hunter. I go ghost hunting a lot. I've had one case where I saw a UFO. We were checking out. Have you ever heard, Ash? I don't know if you're from the area, but Carrollton, Illinois?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's the old almshouse out there, or there was the old almshouse. It burned down like a couple of years ago. Somebody set it on fire. Me and a couple friends of mine, we were checking it. We were just checking to see, if it was haunted or not. It was like a stormy night. Like it had stormed previously, and this building is like a 3-story building. It's like a bell tower, and then there's an almshouse used to be where it was before you had the state hospitals, where people who are like homeless or didn't have any money, people who had some kind of disability, unfortunately, were sent there. So it's cloudy as heck. There's clouds. It's just cloudy. You can't see nothing but cloud. But as we're up there on this bell tower looking out the landscape, we're looking at all the corn and then the forest and all that stuff, the forest bankment, there's a light above the trees. I asked my buddy, I'm like, what the heck is that? He goes, oh, it's an airplane. I'm like, an airplane flying at midnight, 1:30 in the morning when there's thunderstorms in the air? Get out of here. And so he heads downstairs. Now, this part I will always regret. I hate this. I will hate myself to this for day one. I left my cell phone in the car. because I didn't want to lose it because the almshouse was rickety. It was falling apart. Yeah, the figure is falling apart.
I don't know why I didn't take a video. I was busy watching it. I was too busy. I wanted to see it with my own eyes.
This like
weird.
orange light, which looked like a glowing basketball. I was getting ready to head back downstairs. All of a sudden, it goes from sitting there in the tree line to just zooming down below the trees, going across the road, hovering over the corn, like so low the light was reflecting off the corn,
like more of an orb or something.
Yeah, and then it just did this, like this complete turn and shot up back in the sky. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, "Did you see that? Did you see?" I turn around. My buddy's just like, "That's a drone. That's a drone. A drone at 2:00 in the morning? Come on! There's no way."
Corey said, "Oh, go ahead."
And they were like, "Do you got your photo? Do you got a camera? Do you take a picture of it?" And I was like, "Oh."
No
and I will hate myself to this day.
It didn't happen if you
for
don't have
not.
picture.
Yeah, I have no evidence. You guys can sit there. Oh, shut up, Tyler. You're trying to sound important right now. No, it happened.
Corey said Tupac did the same thing at a hologram concert a couple of years ago at Coachella. Yeah, that was similar. But the thing that they did with ABBA, it looks like they're really there. Like, I mean, it looks like ghosts walking around up on stage. See if you can find any footage of that, Tyler. ABBA last year in concert, like holograms, avatars, ABBA avatars. That's what they're
Avatars.
Avatars. But okay, Ash. So we got your take on aliens. What about ghosts?
Whenever I get asked these questions, it ends up looking like I believe in everything. By the way, it'll just be like, man, this guy will believe anything. That's sort of what it looks like.
Having any personal experiences, maybe.
I've had some personal experiences, in both ufological and paranormal, or where ghosts, are concerned.
I'm sorry. Can I just ask a question? I don't think we asked you this. What you said you did have an experience with a UFO at one point?
Well, Holes in the Sky, the whole movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Elements of Holes in the Sky are based on a lot of different people's stories.
Yeah.
One of which is I end up getting to know Terry Lovelace real well. Who had a lot of abduction experiences. Terry is one of the first people that I actually sent the film to get his take on it. And he was instrumental in telling me how he felt about things, because that's one thing in the movie that we really wanted to try to get across, was the idea of not just experiencing, but the idea that whether or not the person next to you believes it does not take away the PTSD that people have from the abduction experience. Like, just because you look at somebody and go, I don't believe that you were abducted by aliens, doesn't mean that that person isn't experiencing some kind of mental trauma.
Or think it's real either way,
yeah. And we always try to, it's like from the moment that we say that it isn't real, it's like instantly all of their trauma dissolves. And that's not the fact. It's still there. So that was one thing that we were trying to really get across in the movie. And there was a couple of experiences. There was one that to this day is very strange to me that happened when I was just out of high school. And I had a friend of mine who had just got out of the Navy on honorable discharge, and he was aboard the USS Kitty Hawk. So we had, this is what's strange is, I sort of preface this, is that we lived in a pretty rural area. We had a network of old rural gravel roads that we would travel on. When we wanted to go out and drink, we weren't going to see other cars for miles. So there wasn't this like drunk driving risk that, we'd sleep, in our cars if we wanted to. We were that rural. And he had just come back, and I said, hey, let's get like a 12-pack and let's just go out and catch up. I've seen you sporadically throughout the years since you've been in the Navy, but tell me, man, how has life been? So we end up getting a 12-pack, and we're out in the middle of nowhere, and this is around a cluster of towns around central Illinois, Seidel, Indianola, Fairmount. These are towns of anywhere from 250 to 750 people. surrounded by cornfields, and sometimes there's an expanse of about 9 miles between towns.
So
That was
small
a
you
little
haven't even heard of them before.
Oh yeah, my graduating class was a class of 4 consolidated towns to get 28 kids together. You know, it's small. So, and I think a few of those were actual pregnancies. So I think that's how they padded the numbers. But like, no, she counts for 2. So we went out in the middle of nowhere, and he's telling me about life on an aircraft carrier, and all that stuff, which I found pretty riveting at the time. And I look up, and there's just a little orange dot, not blinking, not moving, just an orange dot up above the horizon. And this was probably at about like midnight. So it didn't really have, we're not near any towns, so we don't really have that glow from distant lights. We don't have that corona. It's just black. And I see that dot, and I'm looking at, yeah. Oh, yeah. So I see the dot, and the dot starts to get bigger. And I was facing it, and my friend was facing me as we were talking. And I said, Mike, could you just take a look at this and make sure I'm not seeing something? Man, that dot looks like it's getting bigger. And we sat there and we watched it, and it went from, a tiny pinprick in the sky to something that was about, I would say, about the size of a bottle cap in our view. And then it just dropped quickly. Still in view, dropped quickly, took off at an angle, took back off to its original position in the sky, and then shot off in a southerly direction so quick that it blinked out.
Wow.
So at that point, we were just kind of awestruck. We were like, and I said, him being on an aircraft carrier, I'm like, have you seen anything at all that we could be mistaking this for? And he's like, no. He goes, I've never seen anything move like that. He goes, it had to be relatively close to us for it to get that big in our field of view. He goes, I don't know what it is. And as we were doing it, another light did the exact same pattern and blinked out. And this strangely is where it gets very bizarre. We got a, how people claim to get this feeling of like infrasound, where it's like we're scared, but we don't know why. Like, we're getting this feeling that we just shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and the lights didn't give me that feeling, because at this point, this was about maybe a minute and a half to 2 minutes after we saw the lights. We were just discussing it, but all of this suddenly we had this feeling, and I would say it was so bizarre, but I would say for a radius of about maybe 100 to 200 feet where we were sitting with this car, suddenly it was like somebody turned on a lamp. Everything around us was bright as day. And this now was maybe around 12:30. So it was, between midnight and 1 o'clock. And we were looking at our hands. We were looking at, the gravel road. We were looking at the drainage ditches. We were looking at everything, but you could see like past those 150 feet. It was weird. You could see where it was still dark. Like you could see beyond the light where the light wasn't hitting it. We looked up. We couldn't see where the light was coming from. We couldn't see any, because at that point we speculated that it might be craft, it might be something. Mm-hmm. We had no idea what could illuminate that area in such a way that we couldn't see where it was coming from, but we could see a very distinct border from where it was daylight to pitch dark. Like we could just see, it was weird, but it's like we could see through the light, like it had volume to it. It was very, very, very strange. And then we said we unanimously agreed we should go. And we hopped in his truck. we took off, and as soon as we sort of got out of that light, it blinked out, like blinked. It wasn't like a fade. We didn't see it, we didn't like see it chasing us or come after us. It was just like once we got to that perimeter where it was day and it was night, like when we hit that, it just blinked out, totally blinked, where it was just not there anymore. Now we were just, it was just night again, pitch black. We were looking up in the sky. We didn't see any more of the orange dots. We didn't see anything. No, we still had this feeling of let's get as much distance as we can from this spot. It was an unease. Let's get as far away from this as absolutely possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we got maybe a good 5-6 miles down the road. We started to feel better. We started to, that very oppressive feeling of fear started to dissolve. And then we started talking about it, like what could that have been? Did we see the same thing? Sort of just comparing notes. Like I saw this, is that, what did you see?
Yep.
And, it was between the two of it. It was an identical account of what we had seen. And then we got a little braver. Like a few nights later, went back, didn't see anything. A few nights after that, didn't see anything. A few nights after that, didn't see anything. But that was so very strange, that we didn't have a real framework, because we were guys that would talk about UFOs. It wasn't as if we were unaware of the phenomena and then were involved in the phenomena. We were aware of it, and we were both fairly well read. Like, we were two guys that would know who Betty and Barney Hill were, for example. Like,
sure,
we were well read enough at that point in time that, you could say, oh, you've heard of the Travis Walton case, and we could give you some details. We maybe weren't scholars, but we knew enough. So obviously, the conversation would always come back to, do we think it was something like that? Do we think? And then we asked questions, for example, we asked questions like, when was the last time we looked at the clock? What was the time on it? When was the next time we looked at it?
Lost time thing and all that.
Right. And as far as we could tell, that wasn't a factor. It wasn't 2 hours later or something. It was minutes. I mean, the whole event, we might have lost minutes here and there, because we just weren't looking at the clock. But the instances where we were, like, we patched it together, know that, nothing happened that we were gone for an hour, gone for 2 hours or something. Like, that wasn't a factor in the experience. But it was obviously something that stuck with us because of just the strangeness, the high strangeness of it.
Yeah. Wow. Well, and now, even since your movies come out, so much has happened with the government and admitting, and showing these videos of these Tic Tac shaped objects, flying at impossible speeds, and also the whistleblowers saying that, we now have in custody, in our possession beings, that we've captured from these ships. These beings have even killed people, and they've actually, that we have some of these crafts in our possession now. And that just I think something that's happening is people are really pissed now because, okay, if this is true, if, for instance, Roswell, they're almost admitting is true in a lot of ways with this. It's kind of like, okay, well, yeah, we knew that already. All right. They're giving us, I think, a little bit of kind of slight bits of information that they have to right now because they have to. I think that they're busted out. I think, people are mad about the fact that this secret operation has been going on for all these years with our money. This is our damn money that's paid for these illegal underground bases, that we didn't approve of, we didn't vote for. Think about that side of it. And not only that, but they've been hoarding all this technology. The United States, for instance, is hoarding this technology instead of sharing this possible free energy and sharing, God knows what other kind of technologies with other scientists of the world and the people, and freely sharing this information with the entire planet. Imagine what a beautiful place this would be if they would have done that back in the 50s. If we could have, maybe used this free energy and we wouldn't be having all these wars and fighting all these horrible things and people getting killed everywhere over oil, it makes you think about the reasoning why they've, suppressed this information all this time and why they continue to do so. What do you think about the government's take on it all?
I think that usually when the government starts taking a different stance on something, it's usually because somebody was caught somewhere with their pants down.
Racist stuff.
It's never like altruistic. Like they're never sitting around going, you know what? I feel really bad about how much we've lied to the public. Maybe it's time we give it. Like there's, I mean, I think, everybody's a grown up to the point where we understand that there's some insidious shit that goes on within our government.
Yeah.
And it happens at the highest levels. So it's not that suddenly they're like, we can't do this any longer, from like morality perspective. Like I don't think that's it. And I think unanimously we can pretty much all agree that they didn't all get together and have a change of heart.
It's like the internet has busted them out, like Bob Lazar. There's somebody in the chat room, Corey Hill, said Bob Lazar's, he definitely busted out Area 51 and talked about working there for years and how it was compartmentalized and how he took over a ship that was, had some kind of reactor in it. And the guy before him died. He took his place.
And it's also, there's a puzzle piece mentality that we never really had before, because we didn't have multiple components of technology that would validate other components. One thing that really pops up is this idea of this small craft that crashed outside this home in Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
And so we had a lot of corroborating pieces of evidence to what really should be considered a very small event. At least in the scope of an interstellar car crash small event. It's not a White House landing. It's a small piece of private property.
We broke that down on here, and we said that was fake every bit.
In an area. And
go ahead.
And what I think is that situation represents a very small incident, probably in the scope of the government. That's probably such small potatoes compared to the knowledge that they have, right? But it represents this self-validating little microcosm of information, because we've got the chest cam, that the police had, where you actually saw a blink of light.
Yep.
We've got the 911 call. We've got, albeit sort of blurry, we do have the cell phone footage. We've got calls that came into 911 from multiple residences who said that they heard the boom and they saw the light. So we've got all of this that's sort of coming in, like it's all intersecting around this event, right? So that represents a really small thing that, compared to what the government's probably aware of, that happened. But I think that let's take that and expand it a little bit. And I've talked about this previously, because I think it's a point that a lot of us sort of gloss over a little bit because it's such common knowledge. Up until about, 15 years ago, you didn't have internet on planes.
Yeah.
And now not only can we go online on planes, we can call people on planes, we can upload stuff to the cloud on planes, right? So we've got, I'm thinking we've probably got a ton of stuff in the air at once right now, just buzzing all over the place. We've got tons of flybys with commercial aircraft. I mean, we got a lot of videos of that now, right?
Uh-huh.
So the more quantity of stuff we have in the air, the higher the probability of some kind of collision. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Now, 30
may-
years ago, if a small craft buzzed a plane and caused either a collision or a malfunction or something, we would be able to find the plane. We'd be able to retrieve the black box. We'd be able to recover cell phones. The retrieval operation would be a lot easier. But now we have the potential of someone capturing it live and streaming it live
Mhm.
at the same time as they're putting that video on the cloud in real time. I think there's so much going on that somebody raised their hand in a conference room and went, "You guys know it's only a matter of time, right?"
Yeah. That the magnitude of that one event, you know, the way it blew up was crazy. It was all over the place. Everybody was, you know, investigating it and analyzing it and all the different angles. And, you know, we did too. Even our show, we said we felt like all the videos were definitely a comet. You know, they all look like a comet, nothing particular, just they all look like a comet flying straight in a line out of the sky. And the videos that we looked at close and blew them up, and we really didn't see anything in them. You know, there was some strange things moving around and some anomalies in the shitty camera work. You know, I mean, the shitty cameras they were using in the darkness combined with the light, and you know, I don't know. That can create all kinds of little alien faces and stuff, you know. I think that's what we said about it anyway. And we looked at it real close, and we're believers and we want to believe this stuff, but there's nothing solid in that. But I think you know, when it comes down to it, the magnitude of the way that event blew up and all the angles and the police capturing the comet as it actually was falling, I think that was really tipped it off.
I think it's what it represents.
Yeah.
You know, I think that maybe is what's more impactful than the actual content.
It was
is
also
this
happening right at a time right after that, you know, all the stuff happened. You know, people
it represents that perfect storm,
were,
or that model that gets easily, you know, that gets easily out of control. And if you're looking at it as just a model, like if we're looking at that story and we dissect that story, that's a story that I think someone whose job it is to cover the stuff up goes, this is a problem. The way this worked is a problem. This represents another situation that could happen that would cause a lot of issues for us. And it's so the idea of it is something that's so difficult to contain now that I think that they had to suddenly go, okay, the old method just doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And we're going to spend more time and more money, and we're going to lose more face if we keep trying to adhere to the old method than if we say, listen, maybe we can get out of this without looking like the worst villain.
That's what they're doing.
You know, and it's a PR spin in a lot of ways.
When it all comes out, I think a lot of people are going to be pretty upset that all this money's been spent on this stuff and that we haven't been getting anything out of it other than they've been hoarding this information from real scientists who could probably have turned this into something amazing for everybody.
What's the joke? What's the joke? Well, you think they spent $3 million on a hammer and you didn't write it off on a defense budget or something like that? That was Independence Day.
Oh yeah.
So, all right, a couple more questions. You've been with us already for like an hour and a half, but it's getting late. Just a couple more random things. Just some quick questions. Some one shots. How about Bigfoot, the Squatch? You think he's real? Yes or no?
Yeah, I think there's just too much. I don't know what it is.
Do you?
But I think again that it's.
You hear that, Bubba?
Our listener Bubba is a huge Bigfoot fan. Every time
and
something Bigfoot.
And tell us why. Tell us why you think.
Because
no, not Bubba.
I'm sorry.
We know why Bubba.
We know why
believes
Bubba.
everything. No. Tell us your thoughts on it real quick.
I think again we've just got a ton of evidence. I'm not saying it's great evidence. I mean, here we are in 2024, and we're still doing, plaster casts of footprints, but it's what we have. But then again, I have to look at weird isolated incidents. Up until when I was 19, I had never seen what people called a cave cricket.
Oh,
I had never seen one.
Uh-huh.
Now they're all over the place,
Yeah.
but I had never seen one until I was
Right.
like 19 or 20. So more than likely, I'd been in the same room with one, and it just never seen it. And then when I
Yeah.
finally saw it, I was like, "What in the devil is this abomination?" Because they're so bizarre looking. So I think that there is a possibility that if you've got something in extremely small numbers, that it might just go unnoticed. People might see it here and there. Or we are dealing with something that we just like absolutely don't understand. Usually you've got people that are in more than one camp, or it's a flesh and blood creature. It might be of above average intelligence. And then you've got people who I hate to apply the interdimensional model to everything because it seems like such a perfect scapegoat. It's like once you start tossing around interdimensional, it's like you can throw everything in that basket.
Yeah, and if Bigfoot does exist, it has to be something like that.
But I think that it lends itself. If you guys, I don't know if you guys have ever
It's kind of
listened
too
or
perfect,
read a
isn't
lot
it?
of the David Paulides stuff.
Yes.
But
Yes, I have.
When you
Right.
start looking at that kind of stuff, the world suddenly appears way stranger
Oh, yeah,
than it already does. And I think the idea of I try to look at it very pragmatically and back away from it and just be like, okay, is there a possibility that there's something out there that maybe isn't really in a book, isn't officially categorized or classified? I was friends with Adam Davies for years, and he was, going after the Orang Pendek and stuff, and he's got a lot of valid cases for why that there probably is an Orang Pendek. I think logically it makes sense. There's just something here that we just haven't got around to putting in a box and sticking a pin in, and we haven't been able to parade it around and show people. But the origins of it, there's some funky stuff. It gets weird. It gets very, very strange. So I'm open to the idea that, is it just a flesh and blood thing? Yeah, very possible. Is it something that, we can put that interdimensional label on? Well, I wouldn't be totally surprised either, because when you look at the stories, they can get pretty, I don't want to use the word fanciful, but, after a while, it's like, wow, this is insane. What people are reporting. And again, we're not looking at insane people reporting insane events. We're looking at very sane, very reliable people trying to make sense of something that they say.
They well, I mean, there's so much bad, I think, fakery going out there that hurts the Bigfoot, culture.
It does.
It really just horrible guys in costumes that are just obvious, and they're trying and saying it's real, and you can just look at it and go, why are people so obsessed with the Patterson movie? I mean, they act like it's the greatest, piece of film ever made by man. And to me, I look at that old ass Bigfoot movie that those guys all admitted also was not real all before they died. Every one of them pretty much on their deathbed said it was fake. But you can clearly see this line at the waist in the suit that dude is wearing. And when he moves left or right, it's a lady because she's got big boobs. But when she moves left to right, you can
That
see
was the
it
element
go.
that distracted us all.
I know, yeah. I see everyone's looking at her big hairy boobies. But the costume or the waistline goes like this. You can see the line of the hair
like moving slightly like that as she turns sideways. You can see it in her waistline. I could. But and they're saying, oh, the best costume designers in the world have taken a look at that, and that's absolutely real. And all the greatest movie footage people, all the greatest sci-fi, artists have said there's no way we could have ever created that. What do you say about that, dude? Come on.
I think that both sides, whether you're saying that there is nothing like Bigfoot or there is something like Bigfoot, sadly, both sides require a leap of faith. Like, there's not one that really holds more weight than the other. You've got X amount of people that say it's not real, X amount of people that say it is real. I'm talking about the Patterson Gimlin footage, but just the phenomena in general. And that's
Tyler.
really sort of what it comes down to is this whole leap of faith.
Yeah.
Can people mistake one animal for another? Oh God, yes. Are a majority of the sightings probably that kind of mistake? Yes. Can very smart people make mistakes? Yes. So all of these things contribute to the idea that a lot of this probably is just a perfect storm of circumstances, probably making one thing look like another. But I do know that when we start looking at cryptozoology in general, we're getting thousands upon thousands of cases of year people talking about dogmen. And we're talking about up close and personal,
or a skunk ape or something. Like Corey said, it's funny how every culture around the world has a Sasquatch creature.
Like, dogmen fascinate me because of just how many testimonies, how many eyewitness testimonies we're getting. So again, it comes down to what I said originally is like the burden of proof when you start getting a huge volume of sightings starts to go back on the skeptic, because they literally have to disprove every one of them. And for it to be a real phenomenon, not one that we know the origins of or may never know, really only one of those have to be accurate.
Gotcha. Yeah, you're right. So
I remember.
Okay. Go ahead.
I remember, like, for our show, whenever we deal with stories that have to do with Bigfoot, usually the typical blurry pictures and stuff.
Oh yeah.
We just began saying, with modern technology, rush that monkey. Give us a good shot.
Yeah. Our
Everyone
listeners came up with that. Rush that monkey. Hashtag rush that monkey. Yeah.
I
Because
do think that
they're all blurry, and they also as a director, listen to this. Why do they what? Okay, they get a shot of Bigfoot. There he is.
Mhm.
Okay, here's Bigfoot off in the distance, and then they just let him walk off, and he just exit stage right, and that's the end of the scene. Why didn't they run after him right then and find out what the hell's going on in those woods? And that's why we say rush that monkey. You should be running right at that monkey, full blast, with holding your camera and risking your life, whatever it takes. So that's what we tell our listeners. Run up to that thing and get that shot.
You do see that quite a bit. You really do. I will say that boy, and I hope like no one really listens to this who knows like where I grew up. There was a young girl that would very purposefully undress in front of her window. When I discovered when I need to ride my bike past her house. Needless to say, my parents were like, he loves that bike. He's on it every night.
Just great exercise.
Between like 7:15 to 9:10. Never fails. But so it got to a point. This is horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's embarrassing. But it got to a point where a lot of my friends knew about this to the point where you might see some bikes start to crisscross that street.
We're
How you
just
doing,
friends
buddy?
riding bikes, Mom.
Yeah, yeah.
We're just trying to get a workout. Look at our calf muscles, dude. They're so tight right now.
Oh yeah, yeah. I started doing tricks on my bike.
Yeah.
Trying to get her attention.
I was
Yeah.
like bouncing on one wheel,
Look,
doing
bunny
some
hopping.
crazy BMX shit, and like that was for one summer. A lot of us grew up in our own ways, surrounding that house and that street.
Mhm.
Miraculously, nobody ever took a picture.
Mm-hmm.
We all had
Wow.
access to our parents' cameras. We all had access to go to the store, get the disposables and stuff.
So now
So-
it's just a legend.
So right, so I almost sit there and I'm like, who knows? Like, who knows why we don't rush that monkey? Like, who knows why in those moments, like, even Tyler was talking about the fact that he wasn't able to capture that, the way he wanted it to.
Uh-huh.
It just, I would also have to think if there is some kind of technology where these creatures are traversing dimensions or million miles of space. Like, I don't know if you guys are like Fallout guys. What is it, like the Pip-Boy or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
More than likely, if they have that kind of technology, I'm thinking that Sasquatch is sitting there going, all right, blurry photo. Good. We're going to go ahead and punch that one in. They're not going to run. They're not going to run after us. Okay. Are you guys all synced up? Perfect. Great. Like it might be something as simple as, there's a craft up there and it's like, hey, listen, we've got about 4 acres of bad photo circumference. Is that enough? Randy, was that enough last time? And they're just it might be something like as simple as that, I mean, it sounds comical, but I gotta admit, like, we go hunting in camouflage clothing. We do certain things not to be seen.
Yeah.
And our technology, even for stuff like hunting, is far beyond what it used to be. If these things are as intelligent as they are, they're just like, and then one of them is like, hey, listen, last Thursday, did Tim forget to cloak?
Right.
Because we were online and I swear to God, that was Tim's hairy ass on that fucking picture. So I'm sure that there's, there might be something like that, but I think that is a really great question, though, is, why aren't we, maybe pursuing the pictures and the evidence?
You just kind of freeze in your tracks. It's like me when I saw I saw an entire fleet of UFOs, and my phone was actually downstairs in the basement, and I left it there where my daughter yelled at me, and I ran upstairs, and my son and my daughter, we were standing there, and I yelled at my son, "Go downstairs and get my phone." And he ran downstairs and got my phone. And he came back and he said, "I don't see it anywhere." And I said, "It's down there. Go find it." And he ran down again, and then he found it and he came back. And when he did, I still didn't get a video. I only at the very end, I just remember thinking, I just want to see this right now. I don't really give a shit about a video. I don't really give a shit about filming it or nothing. This is beautiful and amazing. There's triangle UFOs flying around in front of me, and I just didn't care. It was weird. That was the feeling I got.
If any of you guys want to write a book, I think that's going to be the book. Is maybe it's going to be corroborative testimonies. We can even name the book "I Left My Phone in the Car:"
right.
The burden of good photographic proof for UFOs.
But I did get one shot at the end,
WTF is my phone.
So yeah, so we tell people rush that monkey, rush the gray, rush that Nessie, what else?
Rush that monkey, probe
rush
that alien,
the dog
fish,
man, the dog creature,
neuter
Mothman,
the dog
rush
man,
them.
that kind of thing. Yeah.
Smoke a joint with the gray.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything.
If anything, just to see their face.
Yeah, just get a shot. As a director, Ash is begging you people, get work
I
on
can
the camera work.
definitely say that.
If you think of it this way, if somebody was to go out and actually rush up to Bigfoot, get a photo of it or a video, yeah, you're gonna get hurt. Yeah, you're probably gonna get beat up, lose a limb, but the money you'd make from that video would definitely cover the medical bills.
Well, we could talk
Ash, you know, about documentaries off air.
I got a friend of mine who, if you put 2 drinks in him, he'll try to have sex with anything.
Yeah.
And I think if we were to take him squatching, he might be the he might be our secret weapon.
Deal going.
So,
he might be the secret weapon. Yeah.
So I got 2 more questions for you. One is a subject that we dive into a lot on here, and I'm just going to throw it at you. And it's a deep question. We get deep on this show. What side are you on in creation? Are you more on the side of the ancient alien guys that say that we were brought here like the books of Enoch say, and that we were brought here by aliens, and they created us as slaves and messed with our DNA throughout the years? Or you more of a Bible believer where you know, we've only been here a few thousand years and God created this earth? And I just wonder what your thoughts are on creation. How do you think we got here, buddy?
I think if we were tampered with genetically over thousands of years, there's a race of aliens that's really, really disappointed that the end result was just a bunch of assholes.
It's huge.
You know, it's like, if you want to talk about pulling a bunch of money into something, it's like millennia later. Nope, these guys are still assholes. We really didn't do much of anything. We just got a bunch of yucks running around, you know. So I tend not to really subscribe to that too much.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's sometimes just a little too convenient for my taste, anyways. You know, this idea of manipulation and stuff. I think more than likely, if something is here, it's because we have a resource that we're not aware of yet. I think that's probably what it is, and it could be a number of things, but I think that's probably why. And it might be a material resource. It might be something, I hate to say it because it sounds very like hippie-ish, but psychical or something. Like, I think that there's a resource that the public just isn't aware of. To me, that makes more sense. It makes more sense than, I mean, we've got deadbeat dads that never check in on their kids in this country. I don't think they're going to traverse light years to come back and see how we're doing. I think more than likely it's something very simple, and which in my opinion is a resource. As far as,
you think there were generations, maybe thousands and thousands of years ago, that did have that figured out? That did
more
have,
than likely,
yeah. You know, that maybe they
I
just
do
were wiped out
subscribe-
and we started over and things like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I do subscribe that we've probably been through several extinction level events.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and that reset the clock a little bit.
We all feel like that too.
That and probably just suppression of that information, you know. Knowledge
Right.
is power. If suddenly you've got millions of people that are shrunk down to not too many people, I think the people who have that information is going to covet it even more.
We
because
talk a
it's-
lot
because
about
it's a
that.
numbers game. Because it's a
Suppression of
numbers game.
history before, like 1920. A lot of crazy things happened before 1920 that you know, they try to suppress, I think, now, man. But
Yeah.
we're digging
Yeah.
up. You know what's funny is the simple fact is we're digging up and we're uncovering stuff all over the planet now that just doesn't make sense. Like,
Out
we're
of place
finding,
artifacts. The OOP
yeah,
artifacts.
we're finding these mines underground that were very deep and very complex, and that shouldn't have been there, and that, you know, they were built a long time ago.
There was one thing that they found recently. They found a site of a bunch of Mayan artifacts
Mhm.
in like a burn pit or pile. Where
Like they were
people-
trying to destroy the
artifacts
history
were
back
burned.
then.
Yeah, and it was like the next level of people came,
Yeah.
took over, piled all the Mayan stuff together, and tried to burn it and get rid of it.
Well,
And they said-
you know, within our written history alone, the name of the game has been to supplant empires, not
Yeah.
come in and build upon them, but supplant them.
Uh-huh.
So every time we come into a place, you know, as a conquering nation, any kind of conquering nation, the big thing is if we wipe out their history, we don't have anything for them to want to go back to.
Yeah.
All they'll know
yeah.
is us.
The saying is always, history is written by the winners.
Mhm.
It is.
And that's, I think, a lot of what we talk about on the show is that, history was rewritten because of energy and a lot of reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Were, for big money and for oil and gas and to continue their reign. If some of this information, I think, came out with Tesla and people like that, and they suppressed it, and they made it just disappear. And basically, there's a crazy technology, I think, that existed even that, they make it disappear. Literally. They just kind of skip it. They don't necessarily lie. They just don't even talk about it. That's the thing.
We've got like very public information that supports a lot of theories like that. And not even stuff that falls into stuff that's conspiratorial, but we've got public information about light bulb patents.
Sure.
Like light bulb patents is really like this. If we want to talk about like microcosms, like that idea of suppression of knowledge for power and for money, light bulbs are a fantastic way to introduce someone to a product that was incrementally made worse because they needed it to last less time to replace more light bulbs.
Yeah, you're right.
There are light bulbs that are still being used in certain parts of Great Britain that have been going for 30 years, 40 years. There's one that I can't remember which, and I don't know if it's still going now.
Yeah,
but
it is.
Yeah,
they had to stop making
Been
those.
going
with
for
quickness.
can go for 100 years now.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
But I mean, you can't sell many light bulbs that way.
Mhm.
Like that was the problem, was that the product and the technology was too good.
Mhm.
So in order for us to have a product that has a supply and demand, then we have to make it finite. So the
Right.
idea of light bulbs is a really interesting way, I think, to look at something that explains the model across almost all planes is this idea of
Yeah.
a light bulb.
And it's been done in so many forms. This whole same story, the
I mean,
suppression, of history like this. Sorry, Adam.
I mean, we have the technology to build a car that can last easily over 50 years. There's no money in that.
Mhm.
Like, if you look at like pharmacies and pharmaceuticals, there's no money in the cures anymore.
Cures, yeah.
There's
Well, if
money
you
in
look at what happened with the World's Fair and all the free energy things that were put up there, and how it was burnt down, and you combine that with the Roswell and all of the knowledge that's being withheld from us in there, this show tries to get to the bottom of some of that. So there you go. So one last fun question for you. What's your you can give me a little top 5 if you want, but horror movies all time favorites.
So I love the Evil Dead films. I think that they're
Yeah.
I think they're a ton of fun. And I always say that's a franchise that no matter what they do with it, they seem to know what Evil Dead is. They just seem to know what it is. They've got a pretty good idea of, okay, we're going to make something that's not classical Evil Dead, but damn if they don't know what Evil Dead is. And I think that's what some of the other franchises are missing, is that they're always trying to do something new with it, which I think is great. But for some reason, like, they can't get the tone right. Like Friday the 13th became all over the place. Nightmare on Elm Street was all over the place. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was all over the place. Like, you can have high points. There are benchmark moments in all those franchises. But man, the Evil Dead, just whether they go for goofy as hell or whether they go for straightforward, raw, brutal horror, like, it still feels Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Like, they still manage to
Even the
make it
TV
Evil
show
Dead.
was all right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, even that was fun as hell. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're watching it and you're still like, this is still Evil Dead. It's like
When that
they-
camera come rushing through the woods at the house,
That's
that
iconic.
still gives you the same chills. You know?
oh yeah, it's like
shit.
they know, like they just know, like they know how to do Evil Dead. They know how to do it.
The girl
so
in the cellar, that was one of the most horrifying, I think, iconic scenes. You know, I hate to use
Oh,
that word
yeah.
again, but just that scene of her in the cellar and the black teeth, and wow, that was Sam Raimi, right? Obviously.
Oh
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay, there's number one.
love
How are
those.
you listing them there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 at the
I-
top. All of
so
them at the top.
I love all three of I love all three of the core films, Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness, for all different reasons.
Right.
You know, I'm also a guy who loves Jason and the Argonauts. I love the
My
Sinbad movies.
Stick.
Yeah. I love stop motion animation. So when we got to Army of Darkness, it was like, how in the world did they pull this off? We've got the brutality of the first Evil Dead. We've got this crazy, like, mind sort of fuck of Evil Dead 2. And now we've got stop motion skeletons.
Yeah.
And I loved every bit of all three of those movies. So
Yeah.
those movies to me also represented a guy that was like, I'm going to do whatever I want. Sorry, guys. I'll find the movie. I'll find the money. And
Yeah.
I'll do whatever I want.
I'm going to put a chainsaw on this guy's arm.
He's going to say groovy.
Yeah.
It's 1987 and he's going to say groovy.
Yeah.
You know, it was like that. It's just those things that it's like, it was sort of non-compromising. So I love those movies. Strangely enough, when I start to go with favorite movies, I am an enormous fan of Tolkien. I love the
awesome.
Lord of the Rings,
Same here.
everything. So I do actually really like Peter Jackson's films. Again, I love the tone. Even the stuff that he changed. Like I'm not so much a purist that I hate stuff. I'm a purist in the sense where it's like I can love Lord of the Rings and I can also love things that are set in that universe that don't quite get it right because I just love it so much.
Right.
That to me, you know, and because I've talked with people about toxicity in fandom. Like that's something that I don't think there's a ton of room for anymore. Because it's like, if you don't like it, you don't like it. But you know what? I would rather have a ton of Star Wars stuff that I can pick what I like and what I don't, as opposed to having just a really small group of stuff.
That's true.
That I just love. It's like, you know what? There's stuff where I look at it and go, man, of course I can watch the original trilogy. But damn, there are some fine Mandalorian moments. Like I love that there's a world where it all exists, whether I like it all or not. I love the fact that as let's face it, as a grown man that's like almost 50, that I can look at all of this and be like, I've got more Star Wars.
I'm
Like,
sorry
to
though,
me,
that
excites
hobo
me.
Skywalker is not my Luke Skywalker. I'm sorry.
But that's what's great about it. What's great
that movie
is that we have stuff to dislike. I love
Drinking
being
the green
in a
milk.
world.
disgruntled for no reason.
I love being in a world though where we have enough Star Wars that we can cherry pick. Like
Took the lightsaber, threw it down like it was some kind of joke. She handed it to him. He was like, "Oh."
I'm gonna say they didn't get a lot wrong, you know, in my mind. But the fact that we've got a universe where we're looking through a lot of windows and not a peephole anymore. There's
Yeah.
a lot more
I
to
love
look at.
Mandalorian as much as I hated that movie.
Mandalorian, I love it. Mandalorian is probably the best Star Wars thing they put out.
There's stuff that
There's
by all rights
several.
I shouldn't have liked that I still liked.
I liked Ahsoka too.
I liked to. I thought there were some great moments in that. I really did. It didn't vibe 100% with me on all levels. But man, when it did, you know, like I love that I can get giddy about 1 second of Star Wars.
Yeah.
There's one more second out there that I can get giddy about. You know,
Hey,
that
going back to
me,
Lord of the Rings
I
real
love.
quick. Have you seen the new Hobbit game out? There's a new, it's called Land of the Shire or something. It's like a Sims Hobbit thing, and you're like in your little hut, dude, in your little Hobbit house cooking food, and it's drawn beautifully. The artwork is, they have flowing curly hair and stuff. Dude, it looks cool as hell, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I will consume just about anything Lord of the Rings.
They were showing it on like CNN and Fox yesterday, like the new game that came out. It looks pretty sweet.
We've got a new anime inspired film coming about the Rohirrim this year.
You did about the what? The row what?
The Rohirrim.
Yeah,
So
what is that?
Got, that was the writers of Rowan.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Oh,
So we've got an entire animated. It's a feature. An
Wow.
entire animated feature that will be, and I do believe that it's set right around the events of Helm's Deep. So we've got that coming out, which I think is this year, which
You a
is
fan of the
crazy.
Bakshi stuff, the Ralph Bakshi films?
Well,
The
I
cartoon?
love the Ralph Bakshi stuff. Like any of that stuff. I mean, at one point in time, like if I was on a ridiculous Jerry Seinfeld show years ago because I had an out of control Lord of the Rings obsession. It was a weird game show. Yeah, it was a weird
Nice.
game show, but somebody found me because like at one point in time my collection was out of control.
You ever watch any other Bakshi movies?
Oh yeah, Wizards I think is great.
Yeah, cool. All right, bet.
Wizards is a really, really cool movie.
American Pop.
Oh yeah, American Pop.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Fritz the Cat stuff was like the Bakshi stuff's entertaining. It's always been entertaining. I even like Cool World. I'm an unapologetic
Cool World's
guy,
cool.
'cause
Yeah. Cool
that
World's
to me is
great.
still like classic
Later stuff.
Bakshi flavor. He was
Uh-huh.
always just
Is he
going
still
insane
alive?
with stuff. I am not positive
I
if he
wonder
is
if he
alive.
is.
I want to say he's not,
Mhm.
but I am not sure.
Not sure. So, very cool. Well, that's so. Any other favorite all-time faves you want to mention?
I like there's a movie that I absolutely love that was done by Fritz Lang called Metropolis. An old
Oh, yeah.
silent film.
Oh, the original. Yes.
Yeah. In fact, actually, if you look back on my wall, you see that little pentagram back there.
Uh-huh.
That's a painting that's done by my friend Jeff Farley. It's Maria from Metropolis. Jeff Farley did the special effects for Puppet Master and for The Blob, and he painted that for me.
Wow, super cool.
interesting.
I love that
So,
painting.
so you like Fritz Lang did one of your favorite movies? Because Fritz Lang did one of my favorite movies too. M.
Oh, M is fantastic.
M is really good, and
M
it's
is-
got Peter Lorre in it. It's like
Yeah.
it blew my mind because everybody's talking. You need to watch this movie. It's really creepy. It's really creepy.
Ahead
I'm
of
like,
its time.
It was ahead of its time. I found it on YouTube, and I'm like watching it. It's all in German, but it's obviously like right before Germany started gearing up for war. They did this film, and it's just like holy shit! It's not put from the perspective of the murderer like you would figure. It's put on the
Mhm.
perspective of like the town people dealing with the murders. And I was
Yeah.
like, you don't really see that kind of, that kind of ability to direct that. You don't see that kind of storytelling in most films. Most films are going to center around the hero, the villain, blah, blah, blah. This is the town dealing with this killer.
Oh yeah, and when you look at like man, the ability for everything that Lang juggled for Metropolis is absolutely amazing because he made a movie that was about caste systems.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a strong theme it's a strong science fiction theme built around caste systems and these star-crossed lovers that sort of meet during this very pivotal time where you've got people that are quite literally living basically in the heavens and then people who are living sort of underground like these Morlocks.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing movie and the fact that that vision was happening in silent films. It's such a high concept kind of movie, and that they were building these robots through a mix of like technology and black magic. It's like, man, shit like that it just fires all my neurons. I'm like, it's so weird. So fucking crazy.
So, well, Ash, we don't want to keep you all night, man. And we could just keep talking to you forever. I want to thank you, for coming on and sharing your thoughts with us and your insights on the movie business and how can people get a hold of you? I mean, what's the best way to, kind of give yourself some plugs here at the end? You know what I mean? Besides looking you up, Ash Hamilton on Facebook, what's some links where they could find you and see some of your work?
Yeah, I'm pretty visible, so you can find me as Ash Hamilton on Facebook, or I run a horror genre site called Horror Fix, which is horror-fix.com, where we do news and reviews and stuff like that. I've been doing that for about 12 years. So that's an easy way to get a hold of me too, because we're pretty visible. We're pretty visible on all the social media channels with that site as well. So, and that's something I check pretty regularly. So there's always a way to get to me through either just me or through the brand of Horror Fix.
Is this your website here, Horror Fix?
Yep, that's it right here.
All right, I'll get a copy
Post that in the chat too, will you?
Yep.
And I posted Ash's Internet Movie Database, where it shows all of his flicks. You can go check out. Go watch his movie Holes in the Sky, and look forward to F Tales from the End of Times, man. I can't wait to see it, dude. I think you got a lot of people excited in our circle to see it. That's for sure. So good luck. Good luck with your distribution and, finding a home for that, man. And I hope whenever you have your showing, you can come back and visit us. You're going to do it like here in this area, hopefully, where we're at, or you got somewhere picked out yet? Or
we'll probably have one in Jacksonville, Illinois, one in Springfield, Illinois, and possibly one in Decatur, Champaign, and even Danville.
Nice.
So sort of a line of towns we're hoping to have premieres in most of the towns.
Now we have the Roger Ebert festival right near here, isn't it? Like in Champaign or Bloomington or something.
Champaign.
That's Champaign, and that's a national. I mean, that's a worldwide thing, right?
It's a pretty big deal. Yeah, just tons of, and those are big studio films they bring in. They bring in some really big stuff during the fest.
So are they very horror friendly or
not? So much.
Probably not. Yeah, damn them. We're gonna get you into that Ebert fest.
There's some things going on in F that I'm sure would not be appreciated.
Yeah, probably. I could hear Roger rolling around in his grave right now.
Yeah.
That's all right, though. To each his own, right?
Yeah.
So, super cool, Ash. Well, it's super good to meet you, man. And Adam, Tyler, you guys any final questions or things you wanted to mention? Or
nope.
I know we look forward to seeing what your future holds and some of the next films that you come out with. Seems like it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Yep, I'll try to keep doing it. As long as I'm still able-bodied, I'll try to keep doing it. So
I bet. So, well, good luck to you, man, and thanks so much, Ash.
Thank you.
You have a good night. That's the show, everybody, and we will see you next week, Sunday night, 8 p.m. on Weird Frequencies. Have a good evening.
Go check out Ash Hamilton. Catch you later.
Ash Hamilton, horror-fix.com. You guys have a good night, man. Peace out.